Good evening, everyone. This is your evening news recap, your nightly news podcast on all the news that I come across throughout the day, giving you my take as somebody who aspires to be a politician in the near future. Hopefully, all you guys are doing wonderful. Hopefully, all you guys are doing well. Today is October 18th, and it is Saturday. Today, the No King's Day protest took place, where a lot of things happened. Thankfully, nothing horrible. The Insurrection Act has not been invoked, which is a great thing. But 7 million Americans in total attended, which is the largest protest in American history, which we will talk about, of course, later. But if you're new here, please consider subscribing. All the support would be greatly appreciated as we are trying to hit 500 subscribers by the end of the year. This microphone is moving around and I'm trying not to have my hair clutter it. But all the support would be greatly appreciated. This is my political journey. We're using YouTube and TikTok and other platforms to build a political platform. So if you're new here and you're interested, feel free to subscribe. Join my journey of making it into politics, Bray 2030. And if you're on Substack, please also consider subscribing as well. All funds go to me. They help me pay for the things that I need to pay for in college, like my groceries, like food or clothing, and all of that. But if not, you can always subscribe for free. I truly do appreciate all forms of support on this content. And with that being said, let's get into the news from today. Moving on into the Trump administration segments, the first topic we have today is Trump has freed George Santos from prison. Trump has commuted the prison terms of George Santos, the former New York Republican who lied his way into the House and who was sent to jail for 7 years. I believe it was like late last year, maybe a little early this year. In a post on True Social, Trump wrote, George Santos was somewhat of a rogue, but there are many rogues throughout our country that aren't forced to serve 7 years in prison. I started to think about George when the subject of Democratic Senator Richard Da Nang Dick Blumenthal came up. As everyone remembers, Da Nang stated for almost 20 years that he was a proud Vietnam veteran, having endured the most bloody war, watching the wounded and the dead as he raced up the hills and down the valleys, blood streaming from his face. He was a great hero. He would leak to anyone who would listen. Then it happened. He was a complete and total fraud. He never went to Vietnam. He never saw Vietnam. He never experienced battles there or anywhere else. His war hero status, even minimal service in our military, was totally and completely made up. This is far worse than what George Santos did, and at least Santos had the courage, conviction, and intelligence to always vote Republican. George has been in solitary confinement for long stretches of time and by all accounts has been horribly mistreated. Therefore, I just signed a commutation releasing George Santos from prison immediately. Good luck, George. Have a great life. This is hilarious. Genuinely, George Santos has to be one of the most interesting people in U.S. politics, in the current years, in the past few years, in my opinion at least. For one, the guy was on Fortnite Friday, those who know, W show. Gavin Newsom was also on there as well. I guess that probably doesn't apply to my audience too much, but, it's a YouTuber named Connor Eats Pants, and he hosts people, like famous people, on the show, and he plays Fortnite with them, essentially. George Santos was on there, and so was Gavin Newsom recently. He also claims to be a Brazilian drag star, along with claiming to be a Wall Street kingpin, and claiming so many other insanely hilarious things. It is genuinely hilarious to me that a guy like him not only made it to get a Republican seat in office, but is MAGA adjacent in any way, shape, or form. I cannot believe that people like him continuously get voted in. Hey, give it to the other side, hopefully he can't run again. I believe he shouldn't be able to, but maybe Trump does some bullshit and pulls that off. But hopefully he can't run again. In other news, I-5 is being shut down because Trump wants to fire military artillery over it. Gavin Newsom has issued a statement for public safety and is closing down I-5 due to the Trump administration deciding to fire military artillery over the freeway, even if it's busy. Newsom said in a statement, the president is putting his ego over responsibility with disregarding public safety. Firing live rounds over a busy highway isn't just wrong, it's dangerous. Using our military to intimidate people you disagree with isn't strength, It's reckless, it's disrespectful, it's beneath the office that he holds. Law and order, this is chaos and confusion. Firing military artillery over one of the biggest highways in the country is fucking insane. And if it wasn't shut down, it likely would have killed someone. Genuinely. Shutting down I-5 in the first place is going to cause so many issues. I mean, that is one of the biggest freeways or highways in the country, so it makes sense why Newsom refused to shut it down in the first place. But the fact that Trump is just going through with it and pushing for this, artillery to be shot over it anyways, even if there's people driving on that highway, is insane. I don't care what side you're on, you should be able to admit that that is insane. Could you imagine what would have happened if that killed someone? Hopefully it doesn't do that. But like if it does, or if it did, it would be on the fault of the entire administration, especially Trump himself, for forcing that to go through. It is insane that they would push to do that while a highway has people driving on it. Genuinely. That is fucking insane. Anyways, Trump says the two detained bomb survivors from the Caribbean are going to be sent home. The two survivors of the American naval strikes in the Caribbean will be sent home to Ecuador and Colombia. The two were rescued after the strike on their submersible vessel. Trump said on Truth Social, "It was my great honor to destroy a very large drug-carrying submarine that was navigating towards the United States and on a well-known narco-trafficking transit route. U.S. intelligence confirmed the vessel was loaded up with mostly fentanyl and other illegal narcotics. There were 4 known narcologists on board the vessel. 2 of the terrorists were killed. At least 25 Americans would die if I allowed the submarine to come ashore. The 2 surviving terrorists are being returned to their countries of origin, Ecuador and Colombia, for detention and prosecution. No U.S. forces were harmed in this strike. Under my watch, the United States of America will not tolerate narco-terrorists trafficking illegal drugs by land or by sea. Thank you for your attention to this matter." Saying as fishermen don't use submarines, last time I checked, I'll give Trump this one. He can have it. Good for him. All props to Trump for sending them home as well, rather than putting them into a nice facility. So are we at the very least going to see all those people that are in the ICE concentration camps currently be sent home as well? Because last time I checked, they were sitting there, not being sent home, living in horribly deadly conditions. So what's going on? It almost seems like the entire point is to put them through it. But hey. Anyways, moving on into our topics about the No King's Day event. We have 2 of them. The first one being 7 million people attended No King's Day protests today. 7 million people from across the United States showed up to the second round of No King's Day protests against the current administration. Protests took place in 2,700 locations across the country and even in cities around the globe. Compared to the first No King's No King's Day protest, which had 5 million attendees, this one had 7 million, which is, of course, around half of the first, or half extra of the first one, if you will. Basic math, This is the largest protest in American history and displays the feeling of millions of Americans throughout the country, whether they attended the event or not. Although I did not attend the No King's Day events today, it's good to hear that so many people went to these protests and took a role in them. It is crazy that this was the largest protest in American history. It's truly a feat, and it says a lot that Trump is the guy to do that. It really does. But I'm glad that people are going out there and protesting. I'm glad that people are going out there and using their First Amendment right. It is an extremely important thing to do, and everyone should do it without a doubt. I'm sure that the longer all of this goes on, the more they will grow, which will be an exciting thing. I'm sure this will be a record that will be continued to be broken. So good on everyone for speaking out. Thank you to everyone who went. Hopefully everyone stayed safe. In other news, looking at San Francisco specifically, the San Francisco No King's Day protests made a huge human sign. Protesters in San Francisco made a huge human sign on the beach, not peach. The sign was bordered by people, and in the middle read letters, also done by people, reading. I just skipped to my next paragraph. Oops, sorry. Reading, "No Kings, yes on 50," referring to vote on the redistricting of California there was also an American flag displayed in the middle as well. No King's Day protests in California really showed out, which I'm super happy for. Even in my own area, which is deeply MAGA, I saw on the local news page that there were quite a few people protesting, which is something that I'm surprised to see and something I'm glad to see. I love my state, and I always will, so it warms my heart to see this. I will be voting yes on Prop 50, and if you're from California, you should too. Not only are we doing this democratically, which is a great thing that red states are not doing, they are forcing it, they're redistricting onto their constituents rather than California, which is letting their constituents vote on it, which I think is a great thing, and which I think should be the case around the country. But unfortunately, red states don't do the same. They like to force it on you, which is really shitty. But if you're from California, you should vote on Prop 50. We need to defend against the Trump administration, who is going to attempt to rig, these midterms in their favor by just essentially redistricting all these red states and getting all these seats to protect themselves, which won't be great. It really won't. So if you're in California, vote yes on Prop 50. I will be doing it, and it's worth it. It really is. Not only are we doing this democratically, but we're taking a stand against Donald Trump and his administration, which is something that needs to be done. Anyways, moving on into our other news segments, we have one final topic for tonight, as a Vermont senator has resigned over the Young Republican group chat leaks. A Vermont state senator has resigned over his involvement in the Young Republicans group chat that was leaked to the public. Republican Samuel Douglas has announced his resignation effective Monday. Douglas was the only elected official in the chat and was in his first term. Douglas said, "I love my state, my people, and I am deeply sorry for the offense that this caused and that our state was dragged into this." As he should. I would hope anyone who participated in that chat has their political career killed. Genuinely. Like, the things that were said there are sick. They are horrible people and should never be in office, just like the rest of MAGA. I mean, the bottom line is that reflects a majority of what MAGA is. It really does. I mean, we see it on a day-by-day basis. You hear it in the MAGA people that you talk to. My family's MAGA, and I can tell you that a majority of the things that were said in this group chat, they would probably agree with, which isn't the greatest thing to, be around. But hey, they're just racist bigots, and really that should have no place in society. With that being said, thank you everyone for watching this episode. I hope you all enjoyed. It's definitely been a very interesting day in the news world, but no King's Day took place. So, round of applause. No kings in the United States of America. I should have brought my shirt. I lost it when I moved here to Colorado, and I would have worn it again. For those who don't remember, on the last No King's Day protest, I made a shirt that says, or not on the last No King's Day protest, on the day when Trump posted the No King's Day image, I believe it was the next day, I went to school and I made like a custom shirt that says "No Kings in America, Trump will never be king." And I don't know where that shirt went. So it's probably somewhere in California. I'll have to try and find it. But hey, hopefully all you guys are doing wonderful. Hopefully all you guys enjoyed today's episode. Hopefully all you guys are having a wonderful weekend so far. The week's coming up, but there's one day left. So hopefully all of you get that much needed relaxation. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing. All the support would be greatly appreciated. As mentioned, we are trying to hit 500 subscribers before the end of the year. We're like 70 away. We're growing every day. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing. All the support would be greatly appreciated. And if you're on Substack, please also consider subscribing as well. All things good to me. They help me pay for the things that I need to pay for in college, like my groceries, like food. Those are the same things. Like my groceries, like clothing, like all of that. But if not, you can always subscribe for free. I truly do appreciate all forms of support on this content. As mentioned, this is the start of my political career. We're using social media to build a political platform. So if you're new here and if you're interested in that, my goal is to make the United States a better place for everyone who lives in this country. Whether that be throughout education, whether that be throughout, free healthcare, whether that be throughout free public transportation, all those kinds of things, I believe should be necessary. So if you're interested in that, stick around. With that being said, though, thank you everyone for watching today's episode, and I will see you all tomorrow.